It's a colorful within. And it's woo woo time, where we connect our woo woo into our mundane living. Hello, woo woo, we're here.
Hello.
So I'm Silvia, Colorful Foresight, and today we have two guests. We have, let's see, Patty, a coaching for inspiration, and Dance with Angela. So today's topic is really fun. Going to be getting over mistakes and fear. Listen, we're going to be talking, but you know it's all about you. So listen how it applies to you. So before we go further, I just want Patty to quickly go over about your Building Better Relationship at Home and Work with Angela and Patty podcast.
Well, Angela and I have a podcast, and it's Building Better Relationships at Home and at Work with Patty and Angela, like Sylvia said. And we talk all things relationship, whether it's Angela and I just having a chat and sharing tips and strategies and different ideas on how to work with your relationships, as well as share our own journey with relationships.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going to share that. If you guys drive to or from work, you can listen to them. So please go to Spotify and click on the link is in the description below. Also, you could just look up if for some reason not able to access the description below, Building Better Relationship at Home and Work with Angela, Patty, and Spotify. So they did one video where this guy would use an Oracle card. What was his name? You remember?
Crystal Queer, Michael Sclafati. I'm sorry, Michael, if I got your name wrong, but Crystal Queer. You'll find him on Instagram, and I'm sure he's going to come on your show soon, Sylvia, somehow. He's just delightful. He's delightful.
I'm going to say what I like is that more and more people are starting to, we all have intuition, right? Everybody has it. They are being okay, be comfortable saying, yeah, I use affirmation card, but also I may use Oracle card, right? So in this topic, getting over mistake and fear, we're going to give you 3 different aspects. So see how it applies to you. So for me, I'm going to use it like worry about making mistake and fear, having a YouTube channel, you know, especially talking about intuition. Dance with Angela going to apply it to her dancing bit, and Patty's going to apply it to her leadership coaching. So let's see where we're going to start. Okay, so I think at the start, tell me a little bit about that. What you remember from that particular podcast. By the way, it's on episode 30, and the title called "Getting Over Mistakes and the Fears of Getting It Wrong." So, what do you remember?
So we had talked about some aspects in the work that we do and why possibly people are fearful. I asked some questions, some self-reflection questions about why do you think people are afraid to apologize, or afraid to say that they made a mistake, or afraid to own up to something that they've done? Why do you think that is? And just reflect on it. I know that when I make a mistake and I know that I need to rectify it in some way, I will apologize. I will go back and try to fix it. But not everybody is that way. And why is that? What in their life has put in their life that they can't apologize, or they think they didn't do anything wrong? Why is that? And we talk about
sorry, Patty. Yeah.
And we just share. Angela shared some tips, so I will let her talk more about that. But we just had a conversation about why we're so hard on ourselves when we make a mistake, and things like that. I know I beat myself up and overthink it. Some people do that, and some people retreat.
And the questions were really important for me. And so while we were doing the podcast, back in that time, we used to sort of write some of the ideas we were going to talk about, and the questions already triggered in me a ability to self-reflect and see how things might make me feel shame. And I might be feeling like if I'm admitted I did a mistake, I get that rush of shame. And then I have to learn how to just be with that sense of the shame inside the self. So some of the tips that I shared are around being able to see yourself when all of that rush of shame, or when we go into patterns of blaming others, it's usually we're running away from fear of being caught out, being wrong, or being ashamed about doing the wrong thing, being the bad girl, the bad boy. And I shared some tips about how to just be more patient with yourself and kind, and eventually more compassionate, because not all of us can do compassion. That's the next phase that I'm working on now, compassion. I realize now why compassion is like an ongoing project in our lives and for our species, because even just looking at your mistakes, like Patty's questions really triggered in me that process of being looking at myself, what's going on inside when I make a mistake, and it just burns through my body. I'll talk about that more later with the dance. But the questions were so important because it helped me look inside. And then some of the tips in the podcast, I show you how to start being more gentle with yourself, but that's a process too. You might not be able to be gentle. You might have that critical voice. So I look at how to assist yourself with your inner dialogue and the terrible things that we do to ourselves and beat ourselves up.
Yeah, just to give you a little visual, this is what it looked like. Fear,
Yeah.
like the Nine of Swords. Now, this isn't, we're not doing tarot, but I figured it's on the thumbnail. The things that keep you up at night and things like that. What comes to mind is, I used to have that a lot. Not getting over a mistake, but having fear over mistakes. So thankfully, with as I get older, it gets better. But it's also depending what environment I'm in. If I'm in an environment like where I'm with Patty or Angela, I'll be better at maybe saying it. But if I'm in an environment where people like are condescending or I can't be myself, it might be a little more challenging. But wisdom do offer something. So what Patty did is, remember, Patty had, even though they both have a podcast, they both have skills that they offer. So Patty, tell a little bit what you offer as far as the podcast with your work-life balance coaching.
Yes, thank you, Angela. So I'm a leadership and work-life balance coach, and I'm also a Reiki master. And I also use my intuition when I'm coaching, when I'm asking questions, when we're going down deep into what is actually going on in your life and what you really want in your life and what you want to change. And I made work-life balance affirmation cards that I've shared on this channel before. And the reason why I made them is in my work journey, when I was having a difficult time, I really needed some encouragement, some inspiration. And when I found out about affirmations, I started using them in my daily life, on my way to work, at work. I would listen to them. I would recite them in my head. I would put them around my desk just to keep me going. When you're in a situation where you're feeling like you're stuck, or you just feel like you're not going anywhere, affirmations help change your mindset and help you feel better about what's going on around you, even when it's in total chaos. So that's why I made the work-life affirmation cards, and that's why I use work-life affirmations when I'm coaching people. And I use them for myself. And it's so funny because when I pull a card for somebody, it's always what they needed at that moment in time. It's so amazing. And I also use oracle cards as well. But that's how I use them in my business.
Yeah, and Angela, sometimes people are not using the affirmation card or oracle. You use intuition, which we all do. So how do you apply the energy, into your work, especially even doing the podcast?
Yes.
Connecting energetically with your spirit guide or the inner wise self.
Yeah. So my higher power, which is God, I call in my guardian angels. I also call in Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael, because those to me and Jesus are my spiritual and my intuition. I've always had really good intuition all my life.
I think a lot of business people do naturally. They call it hunch, gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's just that, we have to take that stigma out of the idea of intuition. But they have even intuitive on the computer, intuitive. So that's becoming more mainstream. But sometimes people, okay, it's okay. She may pop in and out. So sometimes, you ask the question of why, if you're afraid, why would you be okay? The question is, and that's for you who are watching, if you're using the oracle card, please use it for yourself, because there's something in your life right now that you want to get over the mistake of making fears. So this applied to you. So listen to it. It's a collective reading. So what was the question you asked? Why are you afraid to apologize, to make mistakes?
Yeah. You know how, I'll give an example, Sylvia. Somebody's at work and they make a mistake at work and they're afraid to tell their boss.
Right.
And then their boss finds out and they get in more trouble because they didn't go and talk to their boss.
Right.
Why, even though you knew you did the mistake, you didn't take responsibility and go talk to your boss? Why is that? What were you afraid of? Were you, some people are afraid they're going to get fired or get yelled at or get in big trouble. But you get in more trouble by not owning up to what you did. You didn't finish a project. You didn't start a project and the deadline's tomorrow. And you don't tell your boss. Why is that? Why can't you go and ask for help? Or what is holding you back to be
able
to own up to the mistake? Oh, I should have brought this up earlier.
So that's the one we're going to do. So if you're watching this, whatever situation that's coming to your mind, what is stopping you from owning the mistakes so you could overcome it? So Angela, because you're at a public place, I'm going to have Patty pick one card from her affirmation deck, and I'm going to pick oracle, and we'll go from there. And you could just feed off from that.
Yeah.
So while Patty shuffles the card, I'll start. So why would we be afraid to show our mistakes? I got celebrate your wins. So what I feel like it's telling for me, it may be different for everybody. So go with that. Don't go by just our. If I make mistake, I'm only focusing on everything negative. So celebrate your win. First of all, could be from the mistakes, because a conversation may open up from that. But I think what happened is, what comes to mind for me is, once I'm in that fear mode or mistake, I'm playing into that energy and it just gets worse and worse. So what I got to do is also focus the win, and that helps to balance it out. So that's from this card. We got to honor the creator, the sacred creator oracle. So to add that from Animal Pat Curry, we have see beyond the past. So obviously the mistakes, we're afraid of coming from how we deal with it from the past. Or we weren't able to learn how to work with it. So some kind of incident that happened from the past when we were afraid to admit to the mistake. Maybe what came to me is I might not have had tools to be able to admit it. You know what I mean? Maybe I came from a family with ego, or we couldn't have discussion. There are people who have family who discuss. We didn't discuss. So that's what came to me. So that's how I applied to with my YouTube channel. Because remember, we're going with how everybody's individually different here and how each of their work life, they would deal with mistakes. So I'm going to focus on having a YouTube channel. First of all, it's all about intuition. So, oh my God. But here's the thing. We may not always be in alignment with our intuition, especially when we also have fears, you know, and we may not always hear so clearly, but that's part of life. So getting over mistake and fear, just knowing that. I think it had to do with maturity. But this could kind of validate with the card I have here. I don't know if you could see, but it's ancestors. So kind of validate what I just said, that I didn't grow up where we had conversations, how to deal with mistakes. It's like we had to figure it out. So what I did is I kind of just hide it, or I had to deal it internally, you know? So that's probably why. But hopefully, being that this channel, I could be honest with you guys, or at least work it out. So that's how I utilize for the YouTube channel. So how would you utilize that? Oh, wait, first, let's have Patty pick out the card, and then I want Angela put it together too. So Patty, what did you get with what's the name of your affirmation deck?
I don't know. My affirmation is work-life balance affirmation cards.
Great.
And so I drew the card, each day I am developing positive work-life balance habits. So how does that correlate with making mistakes? If I look at the mistake as a learning lesson, and a life lesson, and how can I next time do a better job at communicating that I felt shame or guilt or inadequacy. How can I change that in the future and have the self-respect for myself to go ahead and step up and say, oh, I made a mistake. What can I do differently the next time? And communicate with the person that I made the mistake with what happened, and hopefully they'll receive it in a positive, compassionate, empathetic way.
I have a question for you, Patty. Put up the name of the card that you have again. What it says?
It says, again? Each day I am developing positive work-life balance habits.
Which is great because it goes with see beyond the past. So the past of how we dealt with making a mistake or fear. And then focusing on the good quality we also have. Wait, where did it go? But it was celebrating the win. Yeah. Wait, woohoo, it's peering. Okay, each day I develop. Okay. So it had to do with how we grew up, you know, and hi Fatima, how we grew up and things like that. So what do you get from that, Angela? How you see that apply for yourself, what you're hearing from all of our cards?
It's all about our perception about the mistake. Yes. So both of you had celebrate the wins, and each day I'm making positive. Can you read the affirmation again, Patty?
Yes. Each day I'm developing positive work-life balance habits.
Yeah, habits. So if we look at our ancestors where we might have habits of not communicating or just making assumptions and then internalizing a lot of shame that's nonverbal, it takes a lot of programming, reprogramming to develop positive habits to communicate. And I'll also share that in the process of just getting to this StreamYard live stream, I made so many mistakes, and I was going through burning shame. This is what I share in my work when we look at the inner world in our body. So I was having burning shame because I made a mistake in communicating to Silvia the timing for this back in January. Then we recommunicated and I thought I said something else and then it got miscommunicated again. And then come to now, I had to readdress it and go, oh my God, I did this, I made a mistake. And then even now I've got a double booking for the stream and I have to accommodate all these mistakes with the technology. There's people here. So in the dance, what I'm discovering is that I have this core here, this center part of my body, where often we don't communicate verbally. And that's where I help people to start feeling and sensing. But the next step, because when I grew up, Silvia, I was a strong kinesthetic feeler and I was absorbing all the psychic energy and drama around me and confused about my separation from myself and others. So in the dance, what I teach is how to feel that inner self and then learn how it's separate to the others, connected, but individuated from others. Let's not say separate, individuated. It's your core. It's always connected to the universe, always connected to the earth. But how are you actually using that core to pick up? And when are you sort of merging yourself, because that's what I do so naturally, merge yourself with others' feelings and what is yours. And sometimes with shame, what happens is you blame yourself, right? You're not thinking I'm developing positive. Sorry, Patty, you're going to have to tell me again because obviously I'm making you chant the mantra for us. That's why the work-life balance works really well. So can you say it again for us?
Yes, be happy to. Each day I am developing positive work-life balance habits.
Right. So just that mantra, like the affirmations work like a mantra. You may not believe it at the subconscious, but the mantra is refocusing your perception about the mistake and celebrating the wins. We might be doing that in these days because all of us have done some personal growth and we're like, we know to focus on positive outcomes and gratitude. But what about our reperceptioning of the mistake? As Patty was saying, it's a learning experience. Or as Sylvia's saying, our ancestors, we didn't learn to communicate. Now is our chance to learn to communicate and break that habit from our family or from your childhood or from our ancestors. If you think about ancestors, that's a long habit. So, and in the dance, it's really what I'm experiencing, and even for this podcast, a perception that I have to be everything for everyone and I have to be perfect. And if I'm not, if I'm Angela, that's not enough. So once again, even just doing this stream, I have to learn you are enough. And that's more than enough. You are enough. I am enough.
Well, that's why they stay focused on the win too, because otherwise we get in that circling, just all the negative versus not focusing on the good qualities we have. So I have a little mix. We're going to add a little bit to this. So remember, this is about the episode. Please check out their Spotify. Please like it, support them. You can listen to it on the way to work or home. It's perfect. Also, they're going to be coming the next 2 months as well. So let me just quickly tell you, it's going to be a different topic. So the next month for April is going to be Thursday, April 11th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Going to be about how balancing thought and feeling make your relationship better. Remember, it's all about you. So it's not just us. Then on Thursday, May 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern, it's about balancing play and work to better your relationship. So this is all stemmed from their podcast, that episode that they already done. Okay, but this is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask them. First, we have somebody in the comment we're going to go over with her. But, okay, maybe I'll save it for after. First, let's go to Fatima. Let's see what she has. Fatima's been getting a lot of messages from the other side. So Fatima, do you have fears about that, if it's accurate or not? Because I remember recently she had some insight about, she was at the dentist's office and she kept getting insight that she should check on the car, but she didn't do it. So what happened is the car got towed and yada, yada, yada. And so she's like, oh my God, I made that mistake. Not only was it a mistake, it was an expensive mistake. You know how that is. You have to go go and da 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 da. But we can learn from that, right? So especially Fatima, it's not as much because you have since processed it. So she feels more positive. I mean, have we all done that where we don't listen to our intuition?
And then you get an expensive bill. Yeah.
And that goes back to that card. Instead of just focusing on like, oh my God, I made another mistake. What about all the wins when you did listen?
Mhm.
I
found, me personally, I found when I didn't listen to my intuition, that was definitely the wrong thing. It always turned out not good. But when I listened to my intuition, it did turn out well. It's taking that time to really trust and listen to your intuition and learn that and see that it is a good thing and it is there to help you.
If you see me like, I'm coughing, and how come you can't hear me cough? Because I'm putting on mic. So, yeah, that makes sense, Patty. I just to give all of you a little like added dimension. So I want to ask Patty and Angela, how have you learned even more since from doing that podcast? Because that was a while ago. So I'm going to add a message for both of you because now we're talking about it in March of 2024. So the card we got was Prophet and Ancient Sayers. So we'll just use as your intuition, okay? So this has to do with your intuition. And the message is this decision predictive guidance. So my question is to the people who's watching, that means you, that's including Fatima, Patty, and Angela. How have that shifted since when you did the episode to now about getting over mistakes and fears? Anything come to your mind? It had to do with decision and predictive guidance.
Yeah. For me, it's becoming more attuned to what I suggested at the beginning of the stream, that the capacity of ourselves to be more compassionate with ourselves over the mistakes is perhaps one of the most important things we can do as humans, as a human species. So even to Fatima, like getting those messages from the divine and understanding how to use them, you might be getting a message for today that can actually still ripple throughout the rest of your life. A lot of my prophetic messages from childhood, I'm talking like 5 years of age, 10 years of age, 12 years of age, are now ruling and coming to fruition in my life. They're actually becoming the reality that I experienced then, but as a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, I had extraordinary self-shame or distrust in myself. I didn't like myself or didn't love myself, which are two different things. So I had both. And now the message is resonating more fully. And so it's taught me to be more compassionate with my inner self. Whereas as a child, I had no clue about that. I was on a long 30, 40-year journey of learning how to accept myself and trust my intuition, and also the layers of compassion for the self. So it's an ever expanding, growing thing. When I dance, I always come to the moment in the dance as if it's a new moment. And it's still extraordinary and shocking even that moment opens up something new. And that's the experience I have with the fear of getting over mistakes, that even if I feel that shame in my body still coming through, which happened in early childhood, maybe even pre-birth with my family, and it's still there, but my capacity to be more accepting of it's just a burning shame through my body. There might be some distrust in my guidance. There might be some feeling of worry about what the other person's thinking, but the capacity to just hold a space for myself to just experience all of that and keep loving and just having that space for myself and allowing. In the dance, that's what we do. We allow your body to just experience the sort of discomfort, and then it just goes, and this other beautiful thing grows out of that. So that's new for me since the podcast that we did. I can't
That
remember.
makes sense about the compassion thing, because intuition is something just like life. We're learning something new all the time. So it's a new relationship with our intuition. So I could see, like, when you first did the podcast to now, you got more insight. Even with me doing the channel, I'm getting more insight, especially when it comes to mistakes. I had like anxiety last year over it, and now I'm more at ease. So it's something I'm learning. So Patty, what about for you? What did you learn since from doing the podcast, episode 30? As far as predictive guidance or decision when it comes to your intuition.
So doing the podcast, a lot of times some of the topics that we talk about do trigger us. And seeing the different points of view and all of those things help you to be a better person, because if you self-reflect, and that was one of the things that Angela had said, self-reflect about what happened. I know me, when I'm used to make mistakes, I was one that would beat myself up to the point it was bad, I would overthink about it and everything like that. Now I realize, I'm not saying that I still don't, but not like I was doing. I realized Angela taught me a lot, that it's okay to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. I think sometimes when you're an A personality and you want to be perfect, it's hard. It's hard not to beat yourself up. But I found, all the tips that we give in the podcast episode, if you take those tips and you use them, it's so much better, because you look at things a lot differently than beating yourself up and taking it as, okay, I made a mistake. I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to try to do it differently if the situation happens like that. So it's always a pleasure to do the podcast on these different topics with Angela, and our different views of looking at things. And it really opens your eyes, and it gives you new techniques to deal with the daily life that we have.
No, that makes sense. I mean, thank God. Again, I wish I had these tools when I was younger, even my 20s, 30s, and 40s. So some people just gonna be better at it quicker than others. Some take a long time. But thankfully, with this idea of intuition, it goes with everything in your mundane life. It's not just for the spiritual people, especially a lot of you who are following me. We are all into the spiritual stuff. But a lot of you have regular jobs, and this apply. You don't have to go into become a spiritual coach, or in fact, it's going to be more and more common. Even like computers, you hear intuitive intuitive, like what they do, they gather all the places you go, and then they say, oh, we know where you're going to go next. So they call it intuitive. But intuitive really, besides predicting it beyond even what you know. So that's why we use our intuition, we use our inner voice. And that will apply to our everyday mundane, like bringing the woo-woo into our mundane living. So just want to quickly go with what Fatima wrote. Today we went out, we were talking about my mom, that my sister found a dime in the street, and the dime had the year my mom passed away. I think it was a sign. So there's signs everywhere.
Definitely.
There was one point where I had to like stop drinking coffee, because I was drinking like 5-6 cups of coffee. Now maybe I have like one, but in the morning I really enjoyed it. So I was hearing it intuitively, but literally, like, imagine if I had my cup right here. It literally flipped across the room. And I also had like another incident with a chocolate. Now, if you're here and you drop something, it would go there, right? It would go down. this I had like fresh and literally like. So, I mean, sometimes I make a joke. My spirit guide really telling me, they're like, no. So, I mean, that's like a funny sign, you know, could just be me being bad sick, but I wonder sometimes. So, yeah, you know, sometimes I find the signs are like, suddenly I feel to take a right versus left. You hear stories about people making that right and left and they missed an accident or something like that. So it's happening every day, every day. And I think once we realize about intuition and we learn about it, we don't learn from childhood because it's not really taught. So children coming up who are being taught about that, and it is being integrated into work, right? In the work, don't you talk about like using your sense of gut feeling, Patty,
Yes, I
a
do.
lot in your work life? You know, can you
Yes,
say a little more about that?
yeah. When you are leaning one way, but something's telling you to go the other way, definitely make the choice of going the other way. So many times I went the way I shouldn't have went, but I was being nudged to go the other way, and I wish I had. So when you're feeling that deep down nudge inside that this doesn't feel right, I need to do something else, listen to it, because it's your guide. It's there for you for a reason. And the more that you figure out doing the opposite, you start to become a believer because you see the way you could have went and it would have changed everything. You're on mute.
You're muted, Silvia.
It would help, right? I'm going to say that it's funny. The more I talk about intuition, or especially as I work with you, this is so natural part of our everyday life. I see some leaders. I really think they have very good intuitive insight. They also use their sense of intellectual, and they use their skill, and but I feel like sometimes when they're able to like put everything together, it's not just the mind thing. We have to give credit to intelligence. We have to give credit to skill. We also have to give credit to they work in a team. You know, everybody add to something, but we never consider like the energy around it. You know, because I know even like in a work-life balance, they do create intention, right? What they're gonna want from the project. Same thing with Angela, dance with Angela before she does her next thing. What is the intention? And even before I did this video, we created the intention. So it's all related. So before we wrap this video up, just want to tell you, this is your message for you. So listening to what we said about what happened when you actually get over the fear of mistake. You know what the results are? You want to hear? Guess what? I just randomly picked this. Okay, see the visual, but look at the word. Prayer answered.
Definitely.
Right? Because I could see so many things that I was given, but because of my fears, my anxiety, or immature, you know, it helps to have maturity as well. I did not take it. So getting over mistakes and fear, it's not just about getting over it. It's so you can have your answered prayer, I guess, prayer answered. And Fatima said, yes, I believe in that. So that is great. Anything else you want to add before we go?
Yes, that card is so important because when you are at a crossroads, what should be the first thing that you do?
Yeah.
Pray about it.
Connect.
Yes.
Your divine, go inside, feel. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sylvia. I love that answer.
Yes.
That's an
Well-
answer. My prayers.
I'm telling you, and please let us know. Don't forget to subscribe to their channel if you haven't. Please, support them by following their podcast and also comment. Let us know what you got from this. And remember, they're coming back next month. It's going to be April 11th at 6 p.m. Eastern. We made it a little earlier. Usually I come on at 8 p.m. Eastern because of the time difference between USA and Australia. So take care. And I look forward to hearing about more of your answered prayers.